ladies and gentlemen, kicking things off with one of the best Zerg players in this entire group. It is the Blue Zerg, Serral. And his opponent to the top left, the Red Terran from France. It's Marinelord. Can I complain to your board of directors or your shareholders? Yeah, go ahead, complain in Twitch chat, by all means. And all the people who you convinced to unsub will be quickly replaced. But, as said, I'll be focusing a little bit more on Serral and Marinelord than perhaps most of the other matches, because I'm going to take all of whatever little remaining energy I have to enjoy this. We get to watch Serral from afar. I got to enjoy him from BlizzCon and watch WCS, but as I said before, Serral does not grind a lot of events, nor does he need to. This guy has won plenty of prize money. He is respected by the entire Starcraft 2 community. He's a funny dude too, by the way. And I don't get to see him too often. So it's very nice getting to cast him firsthand for once in a while. Marinelord, on the other hand, I haven't seen in a while, but he was playing in a fair bit of our stuff when he started getting more proactive with Starcraft. I'm not sure what's happened in more recent days or what he's been up to, or maybe he's just been playing and I haven't happened to have him in my own events. Either way, he knows he's got to come into this with every trick in the book to try and take on Serral. Now, the beauty is, it is the start of the group, so no scores have been determined, and honestly, it's not like there's any dire stress, because if you don't beat Serral, you're out of the group. But this final group is a tough group. If you guys haven't seen this, let me remind you all very quickly before this game gets too far underway. This is like, first off, the Korean list group. It originally had, I think, TY in it, maybe in the special replaced them, but we have Serral, Special, Showtime, Euthermal, Drogo, Kelazor, Bly, and Marinelord. Marinelord, only because I don't know what shape he's in. I would list as the weakest link in this group, but that doesn't mean he's the weakest link in this group. It just means I don't know what shape he's in right now. I'm pretty familiar with how the rest of these guys are doing because they play in our events semi-regularly. So it'll be really cool to see if Marinelord can cause a big upset or not. This is the patch and some changes were made, and a lot of the Zerg players have been recommending that the Terrans should be playing MECH, and not even in like a joking, sarcastic sense. Apparently it's pretty solid right now, and the new Thor is helping out a lot with that composition for the late game. But we'll see what Marinelord goes for. I bring this up though because he has played MECH many times in the past. Granted, it's been more of that sort of Cyclone Hellion style, which I don't know how that's going to translate with the new patch stuff. But without going over every single itty-bitty detail, a couple of things to cover that will affect the matchup here. Number one, they made it so you can no longer cancel live creep tumors. So, you know, when you send this thing forward and there's Hellions, so you're like, oops, cancel it and save the tumor. You can't do that anymore. They've also nerfed Nidus Worms in a very unique way. Nidus Worms now have a 14-second built-in cooldown timer that starts at the time in which they begin to build. They also cost 75 minerals and 75 gas instead of 50-50. So Nidus Worms are not out of the matchup, they're just not very good right now. There's a bug with the battlecruiser, and I do want to emphasize bug, because as far as we can tell from all the literature, it appears to be broken. So as we see a fusion core get rushed out of Marinelord, it won't have any effect in this early start of the game, but the big change to the battlecruiser that's caused problems is when the battlecruiser wants to teleport, it is now put in a 1-second stun form of stasis. Now, this can still be attacked, it can still be killed, and apparently the bug right now is that Abduct will interrupt the thing and put it on cooldown. It's not supposed to do that. They very specifically worded that what used to gum up the works, like fungal growths, interference matrix, abducts, it's not supposed to put it on cooldown. It'll still yoink it, but unfortunately right now it's putting it on cooldown. So again, early game like this, it's not going to have any bearing on the battlecruiser whatsoever. It's just worth noting because we watched games where a player totally died to that problem yesterday through the groups. Can't remember exactly which matchup because my brain's a bit mush at the moment, but it's worth noting. But Marinelord was actually one of the first European players to really start adapting battlecruisers. I mean, TY made it popular through GSL, and we all know TY just copied Nathanius, but oh no! Basic moves here as he leaves the supply depot down, links flooded, and luckily the Hellions weren't too far away, so they respond quickly to clean this up. But Serral getting a lot more out of this than he should have. Several of the Marines go down, 3 SCVs, and frankly panic. But the worst part of all was Marinelord was moving out with these Hellions ready to go for a timing. He wasn't sitting here hoping to wait and defend against roaches. He wanted to have Serral deflecting those Hellions back at home rather than attacking him here on the front lines. But the battlecruiser timing is about right. And I have, on my lesser scale of bad play, played against this. In fact, Bexy, if you guys remember that show match I played in, she kept hitting me with relentless Ravager all-in after Ravager all-in. Boy, was that tilting. If I got the battlecruiser out, I held pretty well. If I didn't, it was game over. So scaling this up to Serral, maybe not quite the same black and white situation, but with a 3rd CC finished up, I can't imagine Marinelord takes enough damage here for this to be GG unless big mistakes are made. Hellions are doing a really good job of keeping the Lings back. Battlecruiser's working diligently to clean up the Ravagers. You can see he's target firing them down too. And it is a mech set for the follow-up as these 2 extra factories finish up. Serral's going to see all of this. And Marinelord's actually doing a really good job holding for the time being. Serral's not exactly falling behind from this, however. Keep in mind, while this goes on, he actually maintains a worker lead and has a pretty nice income off of 3 bases. Marinelord was ill-prepared, so took some damage. Now, the battlecruiser teleports across the map. Immediately want to start getting some damage done here to pay back Serral for that run-by. 7 workers dead is nothing that he can't recover from. 3rd CC, maybe it'd be better if it was an orbital, but the point is the 3rd CC's already finished up, so he won't be late to getting this SVs back in production ASAP. The Spire is also finishing up. Did that get scouted in the main base by the battlecruiser? It did. It may have looked like a spore crawler if you didn't click on it directly, but funny enough, battlecruisers aren't really going to be the main focus of this game by the looks of it. Oh, he might build 1 or 2 more, maybe. He's been known to... Marinelord typically does at least 2 with or without Yamato cannon. But with the way the income was disrupted, he doesn't have the money. Like, it's 400 minerals and 300 gas. These are really expensive units. So he's not going to have the money to build more of those at the moment. But I hope he sees the Spire because... Oh, this Valkyrie's getting low. He's got to keep running too. Teleport won't save him in this situation. Queens might focus it down if he's not careful. But the Spire is pretty important to note because there will be Corruptors diving forward. Serral's not investing in a whole lot of them right now, but 6 Corruptors is more than enough to tackle this battlecruiser without proper ground support. When Cyclones come out, that's proper ground support. But for now, it's mostly just Hellions. And I mean, that's a lot of Hellions. I love this link control out of Serral, though. He's been pretty present on the map. Unfortunately, as I say that, he runs into Hellions. So, you know, caster curse. But catches them all, does Marinelord, and that's really nice. Back to the other side of the map, Serral's starting up his infestation pit. Not sure if this is just a push to Hive, or if he has other plans for it, because there are new abilities in the game, like Microbial Shroud and no more infested Terrans, but we're not seeing anyone use those for this entire Homestory Cup tournament so far, so I'm not really dead set on seeing it in this game. Blue Flame's also on the way. Blue Flame will be absolutely excellent at removing anything light from the game, including locusts. But changing his plan here, he's actually started a Nidus Swarm up in the heart of his bases. Going back to the Nidus Swarm, I talked about this earlier, but the cooldown, basically the interaction on this is really interesting to me. If a Terran player or any player deals with the Nidus Swarm immediately, then the cooldown really affects the Nidus Swarm, the 14 seconds. But if the Nidus Swarm sprouts its head per usual and gets up uncontested, then there's not really a difference in the way players were using Nidus Swarms before to the way they'll use them now. But we should also add into the fact, because I didn't go into the minute details of this, that instant unload and load into the Nidus Swarm that we've seen in the past was changed ever so slightly. There is now a slight delay when unloading, opposed to everything basically barfing out at the same time. Again, if the Nidus Swarms are left hidden like this, it's not going to have that big of a factor. And as you can see here, another Nidus Swarm starts up right away. But it will if... Oh, handled incorrectly. The Locusts spawn over here on top of the Hellions. This is great. This is Marinelord would much rather have these wasted over here than flying to his base. Unfortunately, he'll lose the Hellions for this and gain no ground. THORS with their anti-air can shoot a couple of Locusts out of the sky, but yeah, Hellbats right now are the most key, most valuable thing to have against this. Well, Hellions too, of course, but picking up these Locusts. Oh, that was a really interesting move out of Serral just now. So Serral opted to focus down the gas geyser rather than SCVs. He goes to SCVs too as a consequence, but when you're playing mech, gas is one of your most valuable, hard to get resources. It makes a lot of sense that that would be the weak point. This Night Storm in the main is kind of a funny distraction. There doesn't appear to be anything coming out of this. Oh, as we talk about Liberators too, those are coming out into play. They moved a lot of the Terran upgrades to Fusion Core. That's not going to have a big deal of an effect in this game. Oh, you're going to witness these new Thors in full action, by the way. Meanwhile, this Locust Wave kills 16 SCVs. That's going to sting. That's going to leave a mark. Luckily, there are plenty more, though, so it's not the end of the world yet. It's just super frustrating taking damage from Serral when you know it's coming from Locust. And oh my god, the SCVs! Oh. If those Baneling had speed, this would be a different story. Serral's got a bit of an anti-timing working for him here as Baneling speeds down like 2 seconds after most of them die. But going back to the Liberators, they lost 1 range. So, and that's only on the range upgrade, not on their base range. So if there's going to be Liberator range in play, it's worth noting they do have slightly smaller range. I don't know how much of an ordeal that'll cause in ZvT. That's definitely more of a TVP balance change. Lifts up the command center bandit ships. Screw it. This is too much. I don't blame him either. This is so tilting watching these Locusts come in. But at the same time, Serral's making great use out of these units. One of the biggest problems, one of the biggest hurdles with using Swarm Hosts is it does take some time. You have to invest into using them. 1 or 2 waves, they don't pay for themselves. Yeah, Thors do hit pretty hard against most things air. 28 damage a shot to anything not listed as massive. They don't have bonus damage versus armored. This command center is going to have to lift up. I don't know if he can outmass repair. Okay, well, Serral's not going to stick on it anyways. Because Caustic Spray does a tremendous amount of damage over time. New wave of Locusts coming in. The Thors are in the wrong mode to really snipe these out of the sky. So tanks. Oh, tanks. Oh, tanks. He has to leave them in siege mode because of the Banelings, but the Banelings take out most of the Hellbats, and Marinelord's army is crushed from 2 different sides, from the sky as well. Planetary Fortress should hold against what remains, but the tank army getting reset is going to be a hard number to replace, especially when Thors are currently in production. And worse than this, he needs Hellbats. He needs Hellions. As long as there's the threat of Locusts, and as long as there's the possibility of Lings, Hellions are going to be an absolute necessity to Marinelord's army, which, by the way, these supplies are so vastly different right now. This is painful. The creep spread's also covering most of the map. This is an aid partial to the United Swarms, but also largely in part to the creep spread. And a lot of players, I remember a lot of Zerg players, both through Twitter and Reddit, they were kind of remarking that the new creep tumor cancel change was too big of a nerf. It was going to be impossible to spread creep, blah, blah, blah. I'm just sitting here like, yeah, all right, nice try. There's no fucking way you're going to tell me that this had any impact on you building up this creep. Oh, this is a dead base, and there's a lot of dead SCVs to go with it. Boom, 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 boom. Another command center also getting canceled, at least not killed. I'm scared. Do you guys want to take guesses real quick, Twitch chat? I'm about to show you how many SCVs have died total this game. I want to see some numbers. I want to see some guesses. How many SCVs do you think have died in the making of this game so far? 3, 2. I'm going to say 55. Oh my god, I was so far. 76 SCVs have died in the making of this game. This also means Marinelord has rebuilt over 76 SCVs. That is so much money that could have been, should have been, would have been spent on anything else. Now, looks like Vikings and Liberators will take an okay fight here to begin with. Liberators with splash damage, plus a couple of Thors helping deal with these Locusts. They land and they're dead on arrival, but the Banelings wash in and completely wipe out the Hellbats. And Serral's got the money to make frivolous engagements like that. I mean, look at the resources lost. Tank for Serral, but then you realize, oh, he's got a casual 2k in the bank while still being maxed out after throwing away dozens of Banelings. This is too much. Serral his macro game is too wild right now. I don't think Marinelord particularly has done a lot of big mistakes in this game. There are certainly some things we could nitpick, but for the most part, in terms of playing the way he has, aside from that depot at the start, which didn't end up causing that much damage, there's been not a lot of big moments where you're like, damn, he could have really played better. You know, he did X versus Y. Serral really is just getting away with so much, and the macro combined with this creep spread, it just feels unstoppable. I can't even imagine how frustrating it is to have Serral as your opponent when it just feels this overwhelming watching him play, much less trying to play against him. Protection in the main base should be safe for a little bit longer. More Nidus Swarms popping out, more Swarm Hosts delivered to the front line. GG's get called, tapping out. Serral takes game number 1. Well, that's a pretty solid start for Mr. Serral. I got no respect for the Swarmhouse Nidus players, and I used to like Serral. Okay. That's fair. Not even going to argue it. Swarmhouse Nidus Swarm is still disgusting. No, I really think that the tweaks to it are good. I think where it currently sits with the 14-second cooldown, it punishes players who are careless with their Nidus Swarm, but still rewards players who use them in the way that Serral just did, where you don't directly place them up in a base. You're trying to place them at different far outreaches of the map, so your opponent has trouble responding from one to the other, bouncing back and forth. Because as powerful as a mech army is, if you're not playing with Cyclones, it's very slow. Oh, the game was starting. Marinelord left. Not sure why. Is this stream showing Bly? I may try and catch some Bly after this. We're just getting everyone. Oh, we were missing the French casters. That's why we did the cancel. Okay. I was a little confused about that. Okay, well, let's hop into the game. Oh, game, don't you freeze on me now. I know we've been streaming for like 6.5 hours. Just come on. We got a few more to go. Chug on. There we go. Okay, gotta fix the overlay for a sec. There we go. Map number 2 in this best of 2. What's a best of 2, you might ask? Well, luckily I added a command for it. Exclamation mark BO2 or best of 2 if you are curious what all of this means. Here's the long story short though. It's round robin and map scores can matter a lot. And so we play more than best of 1s, but less than best of 3s. Spawning here to the bottom right. Once again, we do have the dominator of Europe. It is Serral. With his opponent to the top left, the Red Terran, aptly nicknamed Moron Lord, but it is Marinelord. You know, it's cool, by the way. I know that through these various esports award shows and dumb voting websites, Serral's never really got the recognition on a global platform through his accomplishments. You ask anyone out there. I know so many pro players from other games, people who play League of Legends or Overwatch, and they all agree that, like, Starcraft is a hard freaking game. They could never get into it. They could never be pro. It's way too difficult, right? Doesn't mean it's better than their game or anything, but the reality is it's very difficult. Yet none of these places acknowledge Serral. Yet Serral on his own, like his own country, you know, they gave him a plot of land, had this tournament at a golf course for him. Now he's being like recognized. Like he is, it's so cool that who needs the recognition of random nerds online for some nameless prize when your own dang country celebrates you as more or less a national hero? It's really cool to see Serral rising, not the ranks of Starcraft, but I guess the fame of his world within his country. It sucks because I obviously am very close to Starcraft, and I'm sure many of you are too. It's just so frustrating watching all these categories go out there and never have any mention of somebody like him. I mean, last year, BlizzCon, first non-Korean in how many years to win Starcraft 2 and a major thing like that? Not a mention of it anywhere. Disappointing. Serral's invited to play the presidential reception at our Independence Day in 2 weeks. Yeah, I heard about that on Reddit. I wasn't quite sure the details of it, but again, just another cool accomplishment and accolade for Serral. And what I really like about it is I don't know Serral very well personally. I'm not super close with him. I know some players, not all players. I've interacted with Serral several times, though, and he's been nothing but nice, polite. He seems very humble, and he's funny. I have such a good impression of Serral. So I'm just so glad that if we really had to champion one person to be like a representative of what StarCraft 2 has to offer, my pick is Serral every single time, 10 times out of 10. But not to ride Serral's ego too hard through this cast. Marinelord put up a good fight in that last game. It's just the constant, I guess, I don't know what to call it, plot. The constant theme of this tournament really has been good players making other good players look bad. And Marinelord played well, in my honest opinion. But Serral made it look bad because he just is so good himself. Thunderbird's this funny map that, by the way, has those mineral patches. Just a quick reminder. We haven't, I think this entire tournament, I've cast several games on this map and have yet to see anyone really use the mineral patches in the back. I mean, we've seen people expand to their own bases in this direction, but other than that, these mineral patches have remained mostly unused. So no real cheesy play. Once again, opening with the fusion core, and the Overlord does see this. I think that's fine, though. Keep in mind, Marinelord did have to defend a very early attack out of Serral last game, and the battlecruiser was a core component to that. If he doesn't have to deal with that this game, and he can put the pressure on Serral, then maybe he'll have a much easier transition to MECH. And Thunderbird, with the mineral patches being part of the back wall, does allow you to get to 3 bases a lot easier, since this is your focal point for defense. This covers all 3 of your bases. Oh, guys, I need someone to help me with this. I just had the name on the tip of my tongue. What was that? There was that really large map. It was like a 4-player map. Between 2 of the bases, there was like these rocks and a hidden path you would see Terran players abuse all the time. And you could get 4 bases on that map really easy. Not Ultra Team Stronghold. No. It was like a green theme. I don't think it was Darkness Sanctuaries before then. It was quite some time ago. I remember they tried to make like a 2-player version of the map, but it was a 4-player version initially. You guys are just naming random. Nimbus wasn't even green themed at all. Like, was it Dusk Towers or something? No, I think Dusk Towers was the map that came after it. God, it's been so long. But they had, okay, specifically in the bottom middle of the map, right? You had a ramp that would lead to your opponent's natural base, and there would be rocks that blocked it. And Terran players would drop tanks behind them all the time. Tal'Darim? No. Wait, maybe? Not Whirlwind. Deadwing! Thank you, 47. Deadwing. I wish we'd had more maps like Deadwing. This wasn't super important to this, I suppose, but I would love to see what this game looks like if you gave a player like Marinelord a map like Deadwing on the current patch. This will be the closest we can get to that sort of scenario, having 3 bases set up on Thunderbird the way you do. Oh, thank you, Mike. But the other part of this is you're also giving your opponent the same sort of freedom. Like, Serral easily has 3 bases as well. God, that was like an accidental trivia night as we tried to remember the name of that map. Deadwing, though. Yeah, Deadwing. I remember so many cool initial games on Deadwing, too. I think, was it MMA and Damaga? We cast some game, and MMA was just, like, laughing. He couldn't believe how wild the map was. Wasn't that HOTS? Was that HOTS? Was it that long ago? For some reason, in my mind, I'm thinking Legacy of the Void. But you know what? That actually makes sense with my timeline here. Because it was before MMA went to military. So, oh, God, that was HOTS. Oh, God, where's the time gone? Whose hands are these? Why are they so old? What year is it? Oh, man. I missed that map, though. I miss 4-player maps in general. I do wish we'd bring some of those back. The spice of not knowing exactly where your opponents spawn made so many cool dynamic games. But anyways, a bad fight in the middle of the map. Marinelord's going to have to retreat from this. He knows there's pressure coming, so he doesn't want to give up too easily. But back at home, I mean, there's like a dozen... Oh, God. Oh, jeez. If Serral breaks the wall, Marinelord is going to be supply blocked for the rest of his life. Every single supply depot is out here is part of this wall. But it does go back to what I said earlier, where at the very least this does cover all your walls. Oh, yo, we talked about this last time. I didn't know this. I only did this recently. Did you guys know that Yamato Cannon creates a graphical upgrade on the battlecruiser? I've been doing Starcraft by like 7+ years at this point, and I had no idea this was a thing until somebody posted this on Reddit. And now it's like the coolest thing, because it's so subtle. Watch this. I don't care what else happens in this game right now. There's some Hellions on the map, whatever. Watch this. The battlecruiser's like legs are going to spread in the front. That's a terrible reference. And it's going to have this like little, glowy neck thing. I've seen this a million times, but I've never realized or connected the dots that there's 2 separate like animations for it. This is like the coolest revelation. Anyways, now you guys know too. There's a 1 second delay. There you go. You can still attack the battlecruiser while it's in that stun mode, but yeah, he's in no real danger here. Wave motion gun. I love that there's still subtle stuff like that. Like I do StarCraft like all day, every day for years, right? I play custom games. I cover the game. I play ladder from time to time. I love that there's still stuff I'm learning about this. Like little intricacy. Like last week we realized, did you know you could contaminate a shield battery? Like what the f? Nobody contaminates a shield battery. I learned that for the first time just last week. So anyways, there's really cool things about StarCraft I still love discovering, and yeah. Now the Corruptor's gonna dive past everything here. There's no cyclones. This is a big drawback to the way Marinelord's playing this style. If he had like 3 or 4 missile turrets to hide behind, or Thor's already out, this would be different. But without cyclones in play to cover this, he doesn't have the anti-armor shredding capabilities to take down the Corruptors. It's really interesting this has gone back to this style, by the way, because Cyclone Hellion was so prevalent for so long, and I don't think it lost any strength through the patch changes. I think Marinelord's just trying to complement using new Thors instead. Cyclones and Hellions don't really complement that as much because Thors are pretty bulky and slow. Pair those up with tanks and you can play this really, really gross style, but oh no, this Yamato's way too risky. Loses a battlecruiser to that. Very unfortunate, very unlucky. But man, this tank count, the Hellbat count, I mean, everything here looks good on paper for fighting an army for Serral. But it's very unlikely Serral's just going to move into an army like this. He'll play around it. He'll probably hit and run a little bit. There's not a lot of situations here where this actually benefits Marinelord that much. In fact, as he plays this kind of defensive turtley style around 4 bases, this is great for him economically speaking. But as you can see here on the map, it's also great for Serral economically speaking, because Serral has exploded. Not only does he have creep spread everywhere, he's on coming up to be 6 bases. His economy is sitting on 89 drones, and honestly, if you wanted to, you could probably squeeze in more and just throw lings at his opponent. But instead, he's on tier 3 tech. We have Broodlords starting up. The scan did not quite see these. He had scanned over here and saw the Greater Spire, but he didn't see just how many Broodlords were en route. But just to be perfectly clear for everybody who hasn't seen this in action yet, I still haven't seen this outside of the balance test games I've played myself, just to experiment with unit interactions. The new Thors bust new Broodlords super hardcore. Like this 39 versus massive every 0.9 seconds. Attacks fast, it attacks quick, and now they actually very truly outrange Broodlords. Because one of the other tweaks they gave through the patch was they fixed the leash range on the Broodlord. So beforehand, to give you some context, the Broodlord has a range of 10, but could attack from a range of 12. Don't ask, okay? It was just a thing. So they fixed that, and now Thors outrange Broodlords by 1. So as long as there's Hellbats to wash off these Broodlings, these Thors will tear the Broodlords apart. Or at least that's how it's supposed to go. I mean, even the old Thors were good in this situation too, but the new Thors are even better. I think right now what he's really worried about, though, is getting abducted. He needs these Thors. They are his primary anti-air. If these go down, he doesn't really have a way to deal with this, but look at this. Look at the rapid fire, even with a bunch of transfuses going in here. Well, the blinding clouds end up being really good. As soon as he started target firing down the Broodlords, or the Thors, those blinding clouds came down, and there wasn't much left to fire back at this. There's a couple of Vikings in the sky, and the battlecruiser's helping a little bit, but they're about to die to the Corruptors. Not enough Thors, I guess, for Marinelord, and now he's in full retreat as he has to try and wait for this next wave of 5 Thors to come out in order to even fight. The Planetary Fortress can buy a pretty significant amount of time. Broodlords aren't exactly gigantic killing machines when it comes to buildings. They're more for killing units in army. A small attack consists here in the bottom, but I mean, it's a tank or 2. It's going to get cleaned up. That planetary fortress needs to be repaired. The SCV stopped. The SCV stopped repairing. Okay, it goes back to it. Caustic Spray will probably kill this, but then he cancels the Caustic Spray, so that's a little awkward. New Thor wave comes out. He starts pushing this back, but on top of all these Thors, he needs Hellbats too. The Broodlings surrounding the Thors are a big part of why they started going down in that fight. Not just the Blinding Clouds, but the Blinding Clouds were a huge factor for sure. You can't really use Vikings reliably. There's way too many Corruptors. The Thors don't do much damage to Corruptors either. Remember, that bonus damage they get is only versus massive. So they're only, quote unquote, only hitting the Corruptors for 31, not the full 43 they hit the Broodlords for. This is another one of those scenarios where having Cyclones could be beneficial. Having Cyclones with Magfield Accelerator would tear apart anything they get to lock on here, but they are fragile. They are not necessarily better than Thors. They're just an alternate solution that comes out a little bit faster than Thors. But this super turtley style can only last for so long. At some point this either makes it or breaks it, and I feel like for Marinelord this is closer to being broken than making it, because he's not really on +3 upgrades. He doesn't have the money to spare for that, and well, in my eyes, Broodlord should not be winning these battles. There's also nothing really pushing back against it. The Blinding Clouds are way too powerful for this. However, look at this. What few Thors do get to fight do start finally tearing down the Broodlords, but now Roaches approach. Oh my god. Can't spell approach without Roach. Bad jokes aside, he does finally focus down the last few Broodlords, but Serral couldn't care less about this. He has like 4,000 minerals. Marinelord's going to tap out. GG. Serral takes the 2-0 here on the match.